Are you thinking of how to grow but unsure who and when to hire? In this podcast, we're going to run through exactly that. Hey team, welcome to another podcast of Upside. Today we're going to run through something that a lot of growing companies ask us, which is who to hire, when to hire, and how does AI fit into this whole dynamic, especially as things are changing. And so that's what we're going to run through. Hope you're going to enjoy this. And for a little context, when we were kids, when I was a kid, we used to play Age of Empires, the computer game. Do you play Age of Empires? Yeah. And I would just start with my little peasant and then start growing out my scouts and soldiers and stuff. But little did I know, there is actually a proper way of doing it if you actually want to win. So all the pros actually do it in a particular way, and there's a formula to how they do it. And I've always thought there must be something similar for business. There's a proper way of growing out a team and doing this. And I think that's one of the things that we get asked a lot as well. I'm not the only one who was wondering it. And so I think that's probably worth kind of unpacking and talking through today.
Right. So quite often we come across Amazon accounts that are struggling to grow. And when we actually get into it, what it is that the founder is trying to do too much. And that seems to be actually what's causing the bottleneck. And it's just a matter of the founder learning to let go of things that they've seen or felt very hard to let go. You know what this feels like, right?
Oh yeah. I am so prone to doing this. The thing is, when you start a company, often what I find, the ones that do really well are where the founder is a generalist, and you can get a thing going really easily because the founder's good at, not an expert, but a good at and functionally okay at Photoshop, getting copywriting up, getting all the little bits and pieces together, and just you're functionally good at everything, and you're a generalist. You just do a little bit of everything. And that's great because you can get the business started and you get your first customers, get your first sales, and kind of get going. But then things start to get to the point where you either are going to stagnate, which is what you said at the beginning, or you can even maybe hit declines. And that's when you need to start getting other people in.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, actually, so there's one line that really kind of woke me up to it. And someone said, look, if you're going in every day and checking your Seller Central sales before you're checking your P&L, you're working for Amazon, not for yourself. And when I heard that, I was like, oh, that's me, right? Yeah. That's what I do.
Yeah. Because it's addictive though, but it's addictive. When you start selling, you get your first sale, it's like, oh, damn, what are my sales at today? And you get addicted to that little spike of, oh, I've got this many sales so far. Have I beat yesterday? Have I beat last week? Have I beat last month?
That dopamine hit, right?
Yeah.
It's a really personal thing as well. You feel that as someone that's only running their business. But the simple fact is you should be, as the owner of the business, you should be running the business. You should be much more aware of your financials. Right? You should be going into your Zero or whatever and looking at that way before you're going to go in and have a look at your Amazon sales. We're not saying you don't look at that, but that should be your first port of call because you need to move up. You need to become much more strategic and less tactical.
Yeah, exactly. And so what we often tell people is your main job is to try and make yourself redundant.
Yes.
So you're no longer needed in the business. I mean, realistically, that's what you really should be trying to do. It's kind of self-evident because most people who are doing these kind of D2C businesses ultimately want to sell it on to someone else. And no one's going to buy a company where you are so heavily tied to it that it doesn't function without you.
Yeah, but it's really hard to let go, right? So I'm going to pick up on one point, right?
Yeah.
Image optimization, picking that primary image. You know what this feels like, right?
Yeah.
You're perfectionist, aren't you?
Yeah, it has to be exactly right. And all the other subsequent images that come with it.
So handing that over to someone else, really challenging. But, and this is a really important point, you're not a trained designer. You're not a consumer psychologist.
Yeah.
You're actually not an expert in this.
Yeah. I know the product.
Ah, okay.
Right?
That's also dangerous, right?
Yeah.
Why is knowing the product so dangerous?
Yeah, because you look at it as the person who produced it. So you are all caught up in the technical aspects of it, whereas you're not looking at it from the perspective of the customer and someone who's going to be buying it. And I had this really interesting experience earlier this week where I was giving someone advice on female sanitary products. And hopefully for anyone watching, I'm not in that demographic. And so I was asking a whole lot of very seemingly dumb questions, but those dumb questions, the answers to those are the things that needed to be in the images, because that's what someone else who's new to this category was going to be asking and want an answer to. But the founder, because she was so heavily involved in the data and had produced it and actually created a really cool product. It's a really awesome product. But she was so tied to the specs of what she'd created, she was losing sight of the key questions someone's going to be asking when they're coming to buy it and move into the category.
Because consumer just isn't familiar with the product, right?
Yeah.
Or the category and everything else.
Exactly.
And this is often made, we'll see this where product people even kind of fall into that thing where they're like looking at product specifications rather than its actual uses and functions, which again, we know that's what consumers buy it. You always say the one about the drill.
Yeah, exactly. Benefits sell, features tell. Right. And so people get caught up in the features and they talk about all the features, but the truth is you need to be talking about the benefits. And so you get caught up in those bits. And by, I guess what you're saying is by handing it over to someone else, they're able to kind of step away from that immediate, almost kind of like pride in what they've created and look at it from the customer's perspective or a whole new view so that they can actually convey that that information more clearly.
Yeah, hopefully it's a fresh perspective, and if it's an expert perspective, someone that understands consumers, then you're going to be in good hands. Ultimately, at the very least, you should be A/B testing. You should be trying other ideas and seeing how they work, because that's how you get better. That's how you get one step ahead of your customers and make sure you continue to do that.
Yeah, I remember there's a point we were advising one brand and they had a single employee, which was the founder. And I remember she would very proudly talk about how she was in the warehouse, unpacking pallets, packing pallets, unloading containers, doing that. And keep in mind, this is a lady in her probably like 60s or 70s, doing all this stuff in a cold warehouse while also wanting to have direct involvement in all the listings, all the images, all the copy, the product development. And she was just spread too far thin. It was emotionally wearing her out, and she was having a really tough time of it. And this advice is what we would be constantly saying to her, and we're now doing a podcast on it, I guess.
Yeah, I suppose. And so many times we see this, and as I said, we feel it ourselves. I'm going to reflect on one for myself, advertising, right? So I found it very hard to hand over the campaign management to anyone. And then again, someone just pointed out to me, look, if you're spending 2 or 3 hours a day managing, tweaking those campaigns, you're an ad manager, not a CEO. And it's like, yeah, I'm doing tactical things, not strategic things. I need to work on the business. I need to be more strategic. I need to bring someone else in who can manage that on a day-to-day basis.
Okay, so devil's advocate on this though, not everyone can afford that.
Yeah, okay, so I think that we should point this out, right? I think actually it's really beneficial if you're involved in the business up to probably around about £500,000 a year. So sitting around that £500,000 a year. I think once you're over sort of 30 or 40,000 pounds a month, that's when you want to start delegating or outsourcing. That's when you start want to hand over some of the roles. Definitely by the time you hit 500,000, you want to be becoming much more strategic so that you can start doing spending your time doing product research, looking at optimizing and improving products, new product development, all of that side.
I mean, are you hiring employees? Or are you getting freelancers? What's your position on this? I have a view on it, but what's your thoughts?
So I think this is changing. I think this is changing really rapidly. And I think the reason it's changing is the advent of AI. So I think now the next, what founders are going to look like for the second half of this decade is going to be very different to the first half. I think we're looking, the most successful ones are going to be running super lean teams, really managing to take advantage of AI and then having some forms of strategic partnership to outsource really key roles that require expertise. And by doing that, I think the one thing that you'll build into your business that's going to be super important is agility. Agility is going to be the key to success in the second half of this decade.
Okay, great. So what you're saying is, okay, get agile, use potentially AI, which is fine. And I think many people should, but not every role. I can't get an AI to go and create my ad campaigns and all that kind of stuff, right? So this is what I would do. I'd find someone who's an expert and hire them on some kind of freelance basis.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Or some kind of agency engagement. I mean, that's what we do, but even not trying to plug us. Like you jump on some kind of like Fiverr or Upwork somewhere, use your networks, find someone who's an expert, get them to create the campaigns for you.
Yeah.
Is that it? And
Yeah,
then
absolutely.
monitor them on a daily, say like, look, I'm going to have you on retainer. You're going to monitor the campaigns, create and monitor them for X many hours a day. And then there's what I can afford to pay.
I mean, if I'm building the team, then I think what I'm probably looking for is an expert leadership team I'm going to bring in that will then manage that outsourced team more. So that's the way I would look at it. You want a handful of people that you can delegate to, so you're not managing that on a day-to-day basis, and they're managing those contracts.
Yeah. Okay. I think this is a bit hard. I mean, realistically, not everyone can afford to have. I'm thinking about that startup founder who's looking at generally the first few employees, right?
Yeah.
And by employees, I mean like people who's not them. So in that case, yes, you want to get to, I would say, have some freelancers or something like that. That's not you, but with the view to scaling to have managers managing freelancers.
So if you're on this journey,
eventually,
then you're going to bring those in first of all. Some freelancers, you're going to manage them. Then what you really want to do is get to a point where you're not managing them day to day. You can bring someone else in at a senior level. I think if you're hiring, you hire at a senior level. Don't go cheap.
And I think you may be that manager, right? That's the other thing, right? You might be the manager, in which case you've been given the task to look at this, but even the spread of things that you're looking at are going to become too much, or you need someone who's just a very good specialist at something, in which case you'd hire out again.
Yeah,
right?
The chances are that all of those specialisms, what you want to do, and I think this is why we're really pushing on this side, is you probably don't need a specialist in any area full time. So what you're better off doing is, rather than bringing in yet another generalist, which is what I think has happened up until now, everyone's just brought in generalists. Your generalist is your AI. Your specialist is your expert that you bring in for X number of days or hours a month, and then you have them managed by someone who's using AI as a generalist to then observe how they're doing and make sure that they're delivering to your key metrics.
Okay, fine. I have a slightly different view on this, and so it's going to make it a bit harder to for anyone who's listening, but I see it as the AI for me is, at the stage it currently sits, is more of an intern, right? With an intern, I accept that an intern won't always have the perfect answer. They'll be trying to please me and give me answers that they think I want. I will have to ask them to give me references so I can double check their work, all that kind of stuff, which is the exact same thing as an AI, right? AI currently judges as it stands. And I can outsource a whole bunch of work to them, be impressed with what they put together, and come back. So I see AI as more of the intern, where I need experts. I want an expert to be managing it.
Yeah.
And where it's beyond my capacity to even look at managing the intern AI and the specialist, in which case I'm probably going to get some form of manager who knows a lot about something.
Yeah, I was just going to say, maybe bring this back from being so abstract and talk about specific things. So I think the first thing that you kind of delegate or outsource out is your customer service, right? That's something that you don't want to be doing on a daily basis. And it's a pretty straightforward one to outsource. You'll know what the standard questions are, easy to do.
Yep, you can get an EA to do that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Right.
Second one, slightly harder, listing optimization. And you want someone with a proven track record there, coming in, stepping in and doing your listing optimization, and you want to be able to see observable improvements in their metrics. But once you've got that person, you can get them to continue to work on it. Doesn't need to be full-time. So hence why you wouldn't want to necessarily have a full-time head doing that, but someone who is expert at listing optimization. And then your third one is PPC management. And I would do it in that order. And that's where you bring in someone that's going to be doing the PPC management, remembering that AI can come in as part of that. We use that for automated bid management, but someone then that runs and manages that on your behalf and then kind of controls all of that side of things. That's probably the top three roles that you want to kind of pull yourself out from the daily tactical delivery of and bring experts in to handle for you.
Awesome. And that's just on the selling side, let alone the supply side and all the other bits that come to the business.
Yeah, and in a way, that's so you step back. I think your time you can spend on brand strategy, product expansion ideas, improving your current product range, and potentially investor relations, right? Bringing in more funding to help you grow the business.
Or opening new distribution channels.
New distribution channels, definitely key one to look at and focus on. And again, as you learn that, you start to bring it in. I think it's worthwhile pointing out here as we talk about it. We're specifically kind of focusing on our experience in Amazon. You may have built your brand in another channel.
I'm thinking about just everything, not more than just Amazon. I'm thinking
across the board, right?
This whole conversation could have been around a DTC website, and it would be the same thing. Customer service, you can be looking at listing optimization, then you'll be looking at your ads management. All three again would be the same thing. It just happens. It's agnostic to which platform it's on.
So if you're stepping in from a D2C environment, you come into Amazon, right? There, in a lot of ways, you probably want to spend very little time learning it, getting your hands dirty. Then you want to hand that over to someone else, so you can then go and move on to the next channel. Maybe social media, social selling.
Cool. All right. So that hopefully hammers the point home, which is be willing to hand back and step back from various parts of the business so you can actually allow the business to grow.
Yeah, I think that's it. It's just maybe being self-aware and acknowledging that you may actually be holding the business back in parts. And I think a lot of founders actually feel that they may be doing that, but just need to maybe hear it, because we've been there. We've sat in those seats, worn those shoes. We know what it feels like to hand over control. It's very difficult. So
it's okay to do that. Zamir says so. He is Zamir and he approves this message.
One love.
Thanks, team. Peace. If that was helpful, gang, tune in every Wednesday. We've got a new podcast coming out. So hopefully see you there. One love.